So we're starting here with a data set I created earlier, which you can create yourself using the bar here to search for the data sets, but I thought it would be faster to have it ready. This is 4 price assessments, which I do every week, which is headed and gutted cod and haddock from Russia and from Norway, SIF China, so it's cost, insurance, and freight China. So this price reflects the price which deals are agreed at, and then it can potentially take 3 months for that product to arrive in China. And you can see here the considerable increase in raw material pricing across the board. You've got the blue here is the Norwegian cod, the green is the Russian cod, the red is Norwegian haddock, and the orange at the bottom there is Russian haddock. And I'll just talk you through some of the price movements we've seen over the past year. And you can see here at the end of 23, that's when prices hit the bottom for H&G. That was the point then when former President Biden announced the executive order banning Russian seafood processed in China and then sent to the US. That actually came into play, I think, in June of 24. But I think it was they were given maybe, was it 30 days, Lorin? Or do you remember how long there was a? But it was basically
a brief time period.
But it was, I think, it was for orders. It was only given, they were given a period for orders to ship orders that had already been made, I think, wasn't it? But that you couldn't place new orders after that. And then June the 1st was the cutoff. I think it was June the 1st. So then that caused, as you can see here, the Norwegian pricing for cod H&G to rise, and the Russian pricing in green here to drop, but then also rise because essentially you've got this shortage in the cod market due to the reduced quotas, which Lorin mentioned earlier, which effectively saw the Russian price increase as well for the H&G. And then on the haddock, you see like a much more of a tighter correlation between the two pricing until we get to here, which is when the Marine Mammal Protected Act news came out, and it was clear that the Russian from January the 1st, Russian haddock can no longer go to China or Vietnam or other Asian processing hubs and then be sent to the US market. So that's why you see this red, this spike here for Norwegian haddock, because all of the US buyers now can only work with the Norwegian raw material. And then you see another spike here around May, I think it was, where Naribo and Merman, 2 of the big Russian fishing companies, were effectively banned from the EU market. The EU issued, actually, no, maybe that was back in May, I think that happened. The EU issued an overnight ban towards the end of May. Saw the 2 companies, EU buyers unable to pay the 2 companies, which in effect is a ban because that product can't flow into the market anymore. So yeah, this is a data set you can create for yourselves. Weekly assessment we do. There's a story written about it every week, covering these H&G pricing. Then I will move on to another set here.
You had said that these raw materials, it takes about 3 months to get to China. Yeah.
So let me just share another screen and we can talk to that. So in terms of the shipping times, you're looking at roughly. I think even with Atlantic, from what I'm hearing from sources, it's really kind of 6 months. Even with Pacific cod, Pacific or Atlantic, either way, you're kind of looking at, roughly speaking, 6 months from the H&G purchase to then that product, sort of got to go to China or Vietnam or Indonesia in lower volumes, be processed and then sent to the US. Obviously, the West Coast is slightly quicker, but yeah, for East Coast, it could be 6 months from the time that the H&G order is placed to that finished product arriving in the US market, which is something we can look at here. I mean, Lorin showed how you can overlay US wholesale pricing on top of each other, but here I've got our weekly assessment for Norwegian cod H&G, SIF China. So I'll add onto this the assessment that Lorin does for double frozen cod from China. Which size shall I pick, Lorin? What would you say would be the benchmark?
You can do fillets. Let's do the 10 to 12.
Good, 10 to 12. Okay. There we go. Because we've got more data for this, I'll then turn this into pounds, so it's relatable for the US market. I'll change it into monthly because that kind of makes the data easier to digest. I'll move this period up, and then we can see here in the green at the top, we've got the Lorin's price assessments. This is now turned to a monthly price, a monthly average. Obviously not only a short period of October, but you can see the pricing for the raw material in blue at the bottom, increasing very much in sync with the finished product in the US market. But obviously we need to kind of go back here to April to look at the price in blue here in April, correlates really to the price now in the US market because of the the time we mentioned there for the product to be purchased, transported from Norway to China, processed, and then sent to the East Coast or West Coast. So yeah, and if you look at this, it's really there's been a 30% increase in the raw material price from this point until now. So I mean, it's really the question of like what the market is going to do with this, because so look here in October, this price in blue here, which is 30% higher than it was back in April, that product is going to be hitting the US market, or products rather produced from that H&G will be hitting the US market next February, March. And I mean, I know obviously we can't get into forecasting too much, but what's any impressions on what you're hearing from your sources in terms of what's going to happen there? Is there potential for that to be absorbed in the margin, or price is going to have to continue to go up?
I mean, there's got to come a point where something's got to give, right? Because we're already at such extreme highs, and there's only so much that consumers will pay. So there's got to be some give, and that's why I wanted to call out the lasting effects of these rising raw material prices, that it's not just impacting things today, it's 6 months down the line. So the US wholesale prices and the raw materials, there are correlations, there are strong correlations, but it's not always the case. So only time will tell, but there's a lot of upwards pressures on the markets right now that point to prices continuing to firm.
Yeah, and from what I understand, people are really kind of obviously very nervous about the price level and buying hand to mouth, but buying as little as they can because no one wants to be caught. No one wants to be caught with high priced inventory, when things potentially move the other way. However, we've obviously got this potential for the Barents cod quota to be cut by 21% again next year. So you've really got the situation where demand is going to drop, no doubt, at the pricing, but it could be that supply continues to drop more than demand. So
right. So these pressures are just canceling each other out, and where does it leave us?
Yeah, but obviously the $1 million question here is what Russia does, because Russia has basically gave Norway until the end of September to lift the sanctions on Maribo and Murman, and Norway didn't do that and has not responded on it. No, neither side has kind of issued a public statement on it. We've been trying to get intel on this, and Russia basically said, if you don't lift these sanctions, we'll ban your vessels' access to our waters, which from my understanding is not a huge issue, because it's not like the Norwegians do loads of fishing in Russian waters. But then Russia also said, we'll basically set our own quota. So we will then, instead of cooperating with you, Norway, on setting the Barents Sea cod quota, we'll set our own one unilaterally. And the government came out and said, well, the Russian government came out and said, we actually think the cod quota could be increased next year. So this is all, it's usually in the next couple of weeks. The joint Norwegian and Russian Fishery Commission meet to actually set the quota based on the scientific advice. So yeah, we're trying to kind of pin down what's happening with that, but it's all very, very uncertain as to how things are going to move.
So yeah, I'll just do the Groundfish Forum soon, which this will all be talked about, and we'll be reporting live from. So
yeah, for sure, it's going to be Groundfish Forum in Tokyo in a week or so, and yeah, this will all be. Often they have the meeting the same week as the Groundfish Forum. Not sure if that's happening this year, but yeah, it's going to be very interesting to meet with a bunch of the Russian industry players to speak to them about it, and the Norwegians, and yeah, we'll work out.